Hello, Internet. Happy Halloween week. This is Scuttlebutt, episode 8. We made it to 8. We're almost to 10. That's like literally zero numbers in podcast world, but for a couple of schmucks just doing this for fun, kind of means something. It means we haven't given up yet.
Are we going to do a clip show for our landmark 10th episode?
Gosh, we maybe have the content to do that, but like,
you go full next generation, have your final episode of the season just be clips.
Well, this episode is landmark. This episode is landmark because this is our first guest episode. We have the awesome Sean Frackowiak with us. Hell yeah. And Sean has been my homie for many years now. One of the smartest guys I know, one of the most articulate guys I know, one of the most insightful guys I know, and also, unlike me, a horror movie aficionado.
Say that.
Yes. In fact,
well, the last thing is true.
Let me interview you briefly.
Sure.
How many horror movies do you watch a week?
Well, average week, probably 10. During the Halloween month, it's usually 2 to 3 a day. So roughly 20 or let's see, 7 times 3, roughly 20 in a week.
I love it. Well, that's why you are a get for us to talk about horror movies, because it is our Halloween week episode. Let us introduce with our opening song.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
A nameless evil, once buried forever. Now he's awake and he's ready for terror. But hold up, wait, there's a catch. This kid Mimi has a plan to hatch. With the magic gem, she has the power. The monster's her friend, it's her finest hour. They'll go on
a rap song that summarizes the film.
It's so good, man.
It's what America needs again. You know, it's where we went wrong as a culture when we stopped having your Addams Family rap.
I'd actually never seen the video.
It's so good, man. They went all go ninja go on this.
Oh, if you think I didn't back this up and listen to it again last night.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
So yes, that is introducing our movie of this week that we watched. We watched Psycho Goreman, which is 2020 Canadian film from Steven Kostanski. And
started out as an effects guy, which is sort of obvious watching the movie.
Yeah. Yes. I had seen The Void before this and enjoyed it. And I think that's how we landed on this movie, where I was I was confessing, guys, I'm not a horror movie guy. Like what can we watch that I think we'll enjoy and is juicy? And I think when I mentioned The Void, Sean, you counteracted, well, we could always watch Psycho Goreman. And I was all like, okay. And I think, connected the dots till I looked into it that this was the same guy.
Yep.
I didn't know that.
Which actually
I would not guess, having seen The Void and now seeing this. That
this has a slightly different tone.
Little different vibe.
The tone is very different, but the art direction lives in the same world. And that would actually be kind of like the first question I want to open to you guys about this movie, which is that, do you consider this to be a horror movie?
I feel like it's a horror movie if you let 10-year-olds write the story.
Sure.
With all of the kind of visual language, like your kind of Power Ranger looking monsters and aliens. With that kind of visual language, if you let a 10-year-old kind of spearhead your idea, I think you get a horror movie like this.
Yeah, if I was writing a blurb for it and had to describe it in a phrase, I'd say sci-fi horror comedy. But really, what's going on is this guy wanted to recreate the joy you felt when you were like in the '80s, bringing home a video from the video store and popping on a cheesy '80s horror movie. He wanted to he didn't want to recreate that because that would be lame. I mean, putting on one of those old movies, it's hard to even sit through nowadays. But he wanted to recreate that feeling in the present day, and I think he did a pretty great job of it.
Yeah.
I would agree. I mean, like, at first I was like, this is not a horror movie. And then I was like, I guess this is a horror movie simply because this is one of those movies where like nobody knows how to classify it and it's kind of gory. So they're like, I guess it's horror.
I love that it gets like kind of gory from you.
I mean, sorry, you're right. It is very gory.
Yeah.
But
it's cartoonishly gory.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing realistic about any of it. It's not. I mean, I would show this to somebody who is squeamish, because it's just it's laughably gory. It's like there's nothing. There's nothing to avert your eyes from in terror or anything. It's just
it doesn't trigger your empathy reflex. It's not plausible enough that you go, oh, you don't feel it. You just get to laugh at it.
So, what would be your like 1 or 2 sentence description of what this movie is about?
Describing it to someone who's seen a bunch of movies, I'd say little girl digs up Thanos in her backyard, makes him do tricks.
I'm really glad that I actually didn't watch the trailer before I saw this movie, because the trailer does give all that up. It's all just like, we're going to show you the basic premise of the movie. Kids dig up Thanos and then engage in hijinks as he like destroys everything in sight.
And dress him up. The dressing him up is crucially important.
Oh yeah.
Max, do you have like a 2-sentence description of this movie?
It's be careful of who you play Calvin Ball with. Crazy Ball.
Yeah.
It's aliens looking to imprison their evil overlord. They'll only bury them about 4 feet deep in a suburban backyard. Yeah.
It is true that like the premise of the movie is that they imprison the Archduke of Nightmares on Earth, which like in a galactic society, I feel like Earth is always like the planet the aliens like lock their car doors when they go by. Like, why would they like bury the Archduke of Nightmares here?
What could go wrong?
Exactly.
Sure.
I totally got the Calvin Ball thing, and in fact, my description of this movie is that this movie is basically an extended Calvin and Hobbes gag.
Yes,
worked through like a Power Rangers pastiche done by like a bunch of Gwar fans.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw a blurb that was like, if Gwar made a children's movie.
Yeah,
like
pretty much.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, I think like the Power Rangers-iness of it like is kind of what turned off my wife, who again lasted about 20 minutes. And like there's definitely like a decision point, I think, in viewing this movie where you're like, am I gonna roll with this or not? Like is this too silly, or am I gonna like live with it? Because it kind of feels like, I mean, there's so much nostalgia in this movie, and I think, part of it was like maybe directors and artists who are like grew up in the '80s, saw the Power Rangers stuff, and we're sitting there thinking like, what are the Power Rangers stuff with all the like megalomania of it and the callous disregard to human life, and like we presented that as bloody and gory as it actually would be, which is really exciting. Like I think that was when I hit that decision point, that's where I was like, fuck yeah. Like if Power Rangers was really going on and there were like cosmic societies like fighting each other and that battlefield was brought to Earth, like it would probably like be like this. It would just be like,
if the Power Rangers occasionally just rip off Rita Repulsa's head, and kick it down the road.
Yeah, I relate to it more as Ultraman, just dating myself.
Yeah.
That was more what I was into when I was a kid. But yeah, it's exactly that feel. It's
I mean,
for
Power
me, it's
Rangers
pure
comes
joy.
directly from Ultraman.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like make that for kids, and Ultraman was kind of for kids too.
Oh, for sure.
And speaking of kids, like this movie, I mean, for me, the idea that it's a Calvin and Hobbes gag like just come to life, like they just keep working it, like it's all very much about this idea of like kids confronting absolute horror with the wonderful like shrugging blase, like this is awesome blaseness of like children, where like children are able to confront unimaginable horror in a way that adults can't, simply because kind of the wonderful thing about a child is that you live in that world of imagination already. And
the father asks her if she got Psycho Goreman to promise not to kill everyone else on Earth, and she just shrugs. Just shrugs.
And you know that performance is pretty remarkable. I mean, like the risk of this movie, like centering a movie around a child performance, where the child has to be like totally arrogant, totally like reprehensible, like at a Calvin level, without like kind of coming off as just an annoying brat that you want to slap. Like that feels so risky. Like the filmmaking of that being like finding some 11-year-old girl and being like, you think you can pull off this performance? And she does.
That kid is a find, man. She's gonna be Oscar winner someday. I was like, the whole time I'm thinking, you know, every now and then I see a kid in a movie or something and think, I didn't want kids, but I want that kid. You know, like if I could, you know, if you got to choose kids, I would have one, and it would be that kid, a kid who calls strange women the skirt.
Yeah,
with the skirt. She's like a punk in a 50s exploitation movie.
Although I will say, if you go to any horror fan group, like on a group on Facebook or Reddit or whatever, there will be a small subset, and it is a small subset of people who hated this movie, who hated it, and almost all of them hated that girl. Like couldn't get over it, which is a tell, I think. Like if you can't enjoy that character, that's saying something about you.
Yeah, seriously.
I mean, I hate a lot of child performances, like child actors.
So
like are always cringy, and I get where that comes from. But this movie is very much about, I think, children. It's about like the energy that children bring, and so like this feels like a director and a group of artists like very much in touch with, I think, the childish love of carnage and cosmic, you know, like all children come to grips at some point with kind of like the cosmic arbitrariness of the universe to some extent, and like we all kind of we get fantastical about it to some extent, and I think that this is very much unlocking that exact like threshold of growth.
Yeah,
I'm probably getting too philosophical for this movie, but
no, I think
that's what I do.
I just dead on. I think this movie captures the real feel of the joy of being a kid better than a lot of dramas that have the kids talking like friggin' adults.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, this movie starts off literally with Calvin Ball, and it ends literally with Calvin Ball, and it's just about children. The way they're introduced, they're just like mucking around in the mud. They're causing trouble, and
they find
graves.
Yeah. He's digging his own grave.
His own grave and gets buried alive.
It's just it is really well introduced. Like they show the kids playing Calvin Ball. like they're facing off each other. They're both covered in mud. They like it busts into this like metal song as they're leaping around, throwing balls at each other, and they like make it as sort of powerful. You're like with the children in this like place of play, but then they immediately cut to this like long distance shot. The music cuts out, and they're just like farting around, like
flailing
kids.
around.
And it's just like it's so powerful that it immediately shows like, wow, like these kids live in this fantastical world, and then also like these are just dumb kids causing trouble,
but they don't curse.
Yeah, that's the awesome part. They're filled with like death and carnage, but like which I mean, I think I'm the only dad of the three of us. Like kids are like that. It's so weird. They are overwhelmed like feelings of emotion and like and drama, just like we are, and then they are just so weirdly sterile about it in that really cute kid kind of way.
Well, yeah, it's like when adults are confronted with cosmic horror, and people, the stories they tend to break when you show it to children. They're like, oh yeah, okay, it's a giant monster.
Yeah, there are these two schools of thought, right? When you become a parent, where you're like, you see so much parenting lives in a kind of paranoia, and just like is terribly afraid of kids existing in the real world because they think the real world is horrible. And then there's the other side, which is there's some wonderful dad moments in this movie, where like there's an other side of kind of philosophical parenting where it's just like the world's kind of horrible and kids kind of know that, and they kind of figure it out really quick. And the gift that the kids have is that they grapple with it through fantasy, and they're so lucky to be able to do that in a way that us adults can't do that, right? That children have a power to believe in and live in fantastical stuff that feels to them as real as reality is.
Sure.
There's something really magical about that when adults do that, like Trump wins elections. But like when kids do it, it's like really, it's just kind of amazing. And then when you're a dad and you see your kids doing it, like it's just there's something really meaningful about it, where you're just like, wow, like the human creatures kind of like, we're so like the power of our imaginations really is the shit that humans unlocked in the course of like evolution. And when you see your kids kind of work that journey, like a whole bunch of like the human journey like makes a bunch of sense in a certain way. Yeah, I don't know, maybe I got too philosophical. We should
probably get into at least explaining what the movie's about. Give it a little, but so yeah, he's little girl and her slightly older brother look like Mimi and Luke are playing crazy ball with just bonkers rules involving spinning around and sometimes fist fighting each other. And the loser, Luke, has to dig his own grave, and about 3 or 4 feet down comes across some kind of alien stone that the girl pulls out, and that causes the nightmare monster to arise out from underneath the spot. So yeah, he was locked away from the distant planet Gygax, as they mentioned in the
the gem of Praxidike.
Right. As soon as the narrator said the distant planet Gygax, I'm like, oh, okay, have at it, nerds.
Yeah. They make it clear what kind of movie this is right off the bat with that crawl.
The Paladins of Obsidian.
Yeah.
And at that point, it basically turns into like an Axe Cop like story where things just they run around and have fun with their new slave alien overlord. And then some bad guys show up and he kicks their butt, but he's also like poisoned. And then the big bad comes back and recruits their mom. And they have to fight the big bad and their mom in an epic game of Calvin Ball to save what they have called Psycho Goreman, or TG for short. And they succeed. They beat the alien who is coded supposed to be a good guy, because clearly he's like Thanos. He just goes from planet to planet killing everyone there. And he survives, promises not to kill them, and then proceeds to stomp around Canada, destroying everything in sight, but leaving them okay.
This movie is so confident in its moral ambivalence.
Yes.
Like, it's kind of amazing. Like, Psycho Goreman, is he a tyrant? Is he a revolutionary? Is he a demon spawn? It's almost like they're like, who cares? Yeah, like, he is absolutely this horrible thing that will destroy the universe, but also like, yeah, he's our guy. We're following him.
Not bothering us.
Yeah, the big bad in this movie, if it's not Psycho Goreman, is the Templars. And the Templars are absolutely convinced they're the big good guys.
Yeah, the Space Templar Knight Pandora. Like, this movie just like starts out so like ACAB, like fearlessly. They're just like, okay, we're gonna introduce you to the space cops, and like the first thing she's gonna do is like, they're like, wait, what's going on Earth? They summon a human and squish her, and then she like smears the gook of the human on her face to be able to turn into her. It's just like, yeah, like it just again, extremely confident in its moral ambivalence.
Yeah,
like,
ruthless, oppressive theocrats who think they're the good guys.
It's it's just like, yeah, if we are the backwater planet of insects, like, it would be like that. I mean, not that it would, not that even that exists, but it's just
even the little girl was ACAB when the cops show up, when they're just out playing with Psycho Goreman, and a couple of cops show up and draw their guns, and she's like, careful, I don't trust these cops.
Yeah, I think earlier the mother suggests they call the cops, and she's like, never call a cop.
Oh man, that's a delightful scene when the cops show up, because Goreman melts one of the cops like immediately, just turns him into a mutant zombie.
Yep.
And then they immediately embrace the mutant zombie cop as like a playmate. And like for the next 10 minutes, he's wandering around with them in the film.
Trying to kill himself.
Trying to kill himself in like horrible pain. Like,
his gun just welded to his hand.
Yeah, it's just delightful how much the movie just shirks all sense of
all moral responsibility.
Yeah, like it's a movie that's just not about that. It's gleefully not about that, and it really kind of says something. Kind of how refreshing that is.
Well, yeah, it really, like, it feels kind of like Axe Cop or something, where it's like 10-year-olds came up with the story and some adults fleshed it out, but they kept all of the moral lessons of this, the complete moral turpitude of your average, 8, 9, 10-year-old child, especially little girls, who are just, vicious little monsters.
The next day, after they find and start controlling Psycho Goreman, like they're out playing with him, and some other kids show up to like bully them. And Mimi is just like, oh, these fucking bullies or these friggin' bullies or whatever. Can you do something about it? And Goreman like waves his hand, and one of the kids just like evaporates in like a splatter of viscera. And then like they have a third playmate, Alistair, who comes over, and she has a crush on him, but he just wants to play video games with her brother, and she hates that, and she's all like, Goreman, can you make him actually like a fun playmate or whatever? And Gorman's like, oh, I once wooed the moon princess of whatever, and he like waves his hand and he turns Alistair to like a giant brain with like googly eyeballs.
Turn him into Krang.
and, Krang. And he spends the rest of the movie as Krang, and everyone is just like totally like, okay, Alistair's Krang now. And he literally gets, I think, the closing shot of the movie where it's just like dinner with Alistair's parents, and they're just sitting there super awkwardly as like this brain is trying to eat, and the puppeteers they're up there down like under the table with the tentacles trying to like sweep like salad into the like brain's mouth. It doesn't even have a mouth.
I guess the actress that was inside that getup had 2 sticks to control the arms, and had to crawl around on her knees. They got her knee pads. Every scene that thing was in.
It's amazing that they
crawling around the set.
They linger on the shot of Alistair, like they finally got like send Alistair home, and they linger on the shot of Alistair just like walking across the field to go home, but he's like a little brain, just like whatever, and they keep the shot just enough to like just make it hilarious. I cannot speak enough to the like character design and art direction and like fabrication of the like costumes and characters for this movie. Like just for the silliness of this movie, you see that kind of effort put together behind the scenes to get in front of camera, and you're just like, all right, I'm gonna roll with this. I'm gonna see like what's the next creature they're gonna put on screen next. I mean, like Power Rangers was kind of like that, I think it was silly, dumb, but you always want to see what the next monster looks like, and they really bring it with this movie. They finally introduce, what do they call it, the Paladins of the Obsidian or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
About halfway through, they're like, okay, like the Space Templar Knight gets called. They're like, oh, she's coming to the planet to like kill Gorman or trap him again. And so Gorman, like, they bring a TV so that Gorman can watch cartoons. And they're just like, stop being such a loser, Gorman. Like, here's some cartoons, lighten up. And he uses the cartoons to like call for his lieutenants from his like demonic army or whatever. And so they bring these. How many are there? I think there's 1, 2,
like
6 or 7. There's like 5 or 6, but then like the mutant cop ends up sort of like being one of them. And I had to look it up. The character design on these is amazing. Yeah. Okay, we have Death Trapper, who's essentially a giant sentient gore bucket.
Yep.
We have Queen Obelisk, who's like a plant lady.
Looks sort of like a Medusa almost.
Yeah, she has a flower in her heart, and he like rips the flower heart, and he like sniffs it or whatever. There's Witchmaster, who's like this like doll-faced hag with decapitation.
Awesome. I mean, they all look awesome, but Witchmaster is an incredible makeup.
Yeah, she's a little porcelain mask inside a big like haggish hood or whatever, and she can wave her. She's got the staff with like severed heads on it, and she like actually decapitates Gorman. Awesome. Decapitates Gorman, like, and he pulls his head back on. Then she gets decapitated. She gets this amazing death where her head gets run over by a truck.
Yep.
Then we have Cassius 3000, who is essentially a fancy lad robot space pirate with a little robot parrot.
Evil C-3PO with Bebo from Wrath of the Titans.
Yep. Yeah. And then finally this guy who's Darkscream, who's kind of like just a lich. I don't know, like kind of what his deal is.
He's sort of. You ever seen like those anime movies, like a Kung Fu Monkey? He sort of struck me as that.
Yeah.
He was the action the fight coordinator for the movie. And he does like this kung fu kick and knocks over Psycho Goreman.
Oh, that's true. That's true. They all have pretty amazing introductions, and they all have pretty amazing deaths. Like I think, like Queen Obelisk, like he rips the flower to her heart. Somebody gets their face ripped off at one point.
That's Cassius 3000, the robot.
Oh yeah, and it's just like, God bless you for probably spending like.
Although I think Deathscream has the worst one.
Yeah, well,
He
we'll
gets
get into
the
that.
Warrior's
The running gag of the Warrior's death,
Yeah.
which is delightful. But yeah, it's just like you just see like a 2-second shot of a death, and you're just like, I think that was like probably about 50 hours worth of like work to make that shot,
for sure.
and it's just so good.
I thought, yeah, it had kind of a, I mean, Sean, you could probably speak to it better than me, had kind of a trauma-ish kind of feel to it.
I mean, Trauma never reached this level. Like,
Yeah,
God,
probably not.
like Trauma maybe paved the way for this kind of like lunacy, but this really kind of feels like these guys fucking, they put in work that Trauma was never willing to do. Like, Trauma was cutting every corner.
And this movie has heart.
Yeah.
Like, it actually, it affects you emotionally in a way you wouldn't expect. It's kind of sweet, weirdly. And Trauma movies generally have no heart at all. It's just people being gross on purpose.
Yeah, pure exploitation.
Yeah.
I thought more like
that movie is friggin' terrible. It's a Trauma movie where the protagonist is an animated placenta.
God.
That sums up Trauma for me.
I mean, it starts and stops with probably a mildly amusing premise,
and that's it. And then they drag it out to 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Oh man, I think we need to make you watch like a Wes Anderson movie or something, Sean.
I've seen plenty of them.
Yeah, I imagine Sean is totally literate.
Oh sure.
Yeah.
Just something real twee, something no effect shots, no blood.
Oh my God, what was? I usually like them. There's one I hated. It was the one that was the French newspaper.
Oh yeah, that one.
Sort of an anthology movie. Oh my God, that movie sucked.
It wasn't.
I don't think I watched that one.
I think it was the most recent one.
The most recent one was the one, the UFO landing site. And
that one wasn't very good either.
City, yeah, I
that was still better than the French newspaper one. Oh God, what's the friggin' name of that?
Oh, it's one of those 12 words or something in the title.
Yeah,
like French Dispatch of something.
Yeah, I think it might have been the French Dispatch. It's not worth looking up, really.
No, I only made it about 20 minutes into that alien one. I don't know. I couldn't tell you what happened in that movie. It was could not get into it. But
I think
normally,
Wes Anderson got high on his own farts.
A little bit.
He lost track of making something actually entertaining. Like when he was good, the movies were great.
Bottle Rocket is like probably one of my favorite movies of all time. Like seminal, like
Royal Tenenbaums.
Sense of connection and Rushmore, like so good.
Great movie.
I haven't even watched the last two movies, and I guess it's so weird because like I love him so much, and I'm just like, you know what? I think he's lost the juice. Maybe I don't really know.
Just in love with the style and lost all track of substance.
Yeah, it was almost like after what was the hotel one? Not the Darjeeling Limited, but the
Grand Budapest Hotel.
I think I saw Grand Budapest, and I just had the sensation that like he peaked. I was just like, you know what? I don't know what else he can do. Like this feels like this is like the most Wes Anderson-iest Wes Anderson movie there could be.
Oh, he found some more Wes Anderson to be. Those last couple of movies, you cranked it up and tore the dial off.
I think Grand Budapest was the last one I liked.
Yeah,
it's so interesting that we're tangenting to him because, like, on one level, a Wes Anderson movie could not be more polar opposite to what this movie's trying to be, while at the same time being just as artistically committed.
I can see that.
Sure. For evil.
Yeah. And it's good. Some other amazing. Sorry.
Speaking of arty bullshit, I will, as a random note, I read a review of Psycho Goreman as I was browsing around the internet.
Mm-hmm.
I won't say really preparing for this, but just in anticipation of this. And RogerEbert.com reviewed this. And they tried to interact with it. They would have interacted with The Exorcist or Hereditary or something. they so did not get it. They gave it like 1 star.
Yeah,
Come on, man.
So that's kind of interesting, right? Because it's like it's almost what this movie is about, which is like the inability of parents to accept a child's sense of play to some extent.
Mm.
Is almost like mirrored by like a critic's inability to watch a movie like this and not be like, maybe let me just roll with it and see how much I like it, and then finding yourself really liking it. And that that's been a reigning theme for, at least for me, doing these podcasts with Max to some extent, has been about like investigating why I like the things I like. And a movie like this is kind of profound because like it tests your tolerance of silliness.
Yeah.
And then you kind of think about like, well, I enjoyed that. Why did I enjoy that? And it's a little bit like, it's weird being an adult because some silliness, like you're going to be like, you know what? There's enough nostalgia to this. There's enough callbacks to stuff that I liked when I was a kid that this silliness is fun and enjoyable. But so much silliness is not. And so many adults are stuck in places like a critic where they're like, this is just too silly. I mean, I love my wife, but like this was just too silly for her. It was just too kind of, sure. I could tell that she thought it was dumb. This movie, it's a little unabashedly dumb. It leans into its own dumbness. It's into it.
It's awesome. It goes for awesome. It achieves awesome. And you can interact with it honestly and just enjoy how freaking cool the stuff they're doing on the screen is, and accept that it's going to be silly. In another minute, you're going to see a new really cool monster. It's going to be awesome, and it's going to be silly.
Absolutely.
If you can put yourself in that emotional state, it's awesome. It's the heckin' best. But if you can't, you're just going to sit there like grinding your teeth. And there's a lot of movies. There's a lot of intentional B movies, like Sharknado 6, Sharknado versus Giant Octopus or whatever.
Yeah.
That are self-consciously bad. They're not really trying to be awesome. There's nothing awesome about them. It's just, it was a funny title, and we're going to have people ham it up, and we're going to slap some really dumb effects on it.
Well, it's like what we were saying about trauma, like it starts and stops with the concept.
There's no joy in it. I mean,
yeah.
Do you think people get excited on the set of Sharknado 10? No.
Yeah, I mean, some people maybe a little bit, just because they're showing up every day and they're like, I'm trying to enjoy myself. Other awesome points of this movie. My Hunky Boys.
Or what?
My Hunky Boys.
Which is like, they give Gorman some like magazines, and they're trying to make Gorman cool. They think it's so funny that they like basically wake up Thanos, and their first impression, which is entirely accurate, is like, this guy's a huge loser. Like he just keeps talking about like he's gonna suck people's souls and destroy the universe, and like it's kind of cool that he's got all this cosmic power. How can we make him fun? And so they give him like boy magazines,
Tiger Beat kind of thing. And
yeah,
I do not care for Hunky Boys. Or do I?
Oh man!
No, my Hunky Boys.
The shot that you just showed, like he literally creates a flesh sword from Pandora's guts and bones in the final fight. There's this amazing scene where, so after he fights the Paladins of Obsidian, he's kind of wounded. They poisoned him somehow, and the team and the kids are just like, oh, what do we do? What do we do? Call for dad. So he calls for dad. I got to talk about the dad in this movie, by the way, in like so many ways, because it's such a rich performance.
Ow, my hand.
They call the dad on the toilet, and the dad's sitting on the toilet. He's having marriage problems. He's like bitter and resentful because his wife has been calling him on all this shit. And his dad, the dad's a huge loser, and like they're like, you got to bring the truck out to like rescue us or whatever. Like, what can the dad do? And the dad, God, what happens? Like Gorman psychically calls the dad in a weird like floating head vortex effects thing while this guy's on. Like he flips out, he's on the toilet, he falls into the bathtub with his like feet just like flailing. and he's so useless that they have to keep he has to keep recalling to get better and better directions about how to get to him.
It's on the corner of
the second light.
So it's funny. So this is the arc for watching the dad performance in this. So the dad epitomizes the Gen X dad. It's the dad who just does not give a shit and just sort of is snarky about everything that happens. He's and they dig this huge hole in the ground, and then they fill it back up, and then Psycho Goreman digs himself out, and the parents come out. Oh, what's this big hole doing in the yard? They're yelling at their kids about it. They're somehow they nod at each other as a family till the dad has to finally agree to fill in the pit. He shovels twice and then breaks his hand, and he starts whimpering and crying, and you can tell the mom is just so over dad's shit.
Well, feigns an injury. I don't think he had any actual injury at that point.
Yeah.
It's called back later when he actually compound breaks his wrist. You got to take me to the hospital, and everyone's like, there goes dad again.
So I truly believe that this is a character that could only be written by a dad. It exists at that level of self-mockery. It's a dad movie made by dads who kind of love their kids and love their kids' imaginations and wanted to just be I'm gonna make a movie that really encapsulates the righteous obliviousness of kids to their parents' desires that a kind of Gen X dad, I think, like me, gets frustrated with but secretly loves.
I love the dad's special chicken recipe.
Oh my god, that's right. He makes dinner for the family and he fucks up the microwave. I mean, there's no holds barred for how much of a loser this dad is.
Useless in every respect.
And yet, you end up kind of rooting for him a little bit because he does drive out. He's so annoyed. He drives out. He rescues Psycho Goreman. There's this final showdown where it's Mimi, her dad, and Goreman against the Space Templar Knight, the mom who's been sort of mutated into Sub-Templar or whatever, and the brother. And
the boy or the brother
Goreman never remembers.
Yeah, that's a great running gag.
And the human boy.
Meets child.
Yeah, meet child.
Yeah. Oh God. But that was ultimately the conclusion I had. I found myself drawing watching this movie, where it's just there is so much fatherly love in this movie of somebody being I kind of want to make a movie starring my kids and featuring my kids' imaginations and giving my kids all the awesomest moments that I possibly can.
I would have loved this movie when I was a kid. Absolutely adored it.
Yeah. And part of that is I'm going to make the dad a complete goofball and make fun of him as much as I can, as well as sort of part of that. So there's a really wonderful just dad energy to this movie that I really resonated with incredibly.
I was wondering, as the parent of the panel here.
Yeah.
Could kids watch this?
100%. My son is 14. He was sort of side watching this while he was playing video games with his kids, and this movie absolutely pulled him away from that to watch this, and he's just he was filled with wonder and curiosity. He didn't, not to the point of pulling himself completely away and sitting down and watching it with us, because it's an awesome framing shot. So if your kid is not overly sensitive, and I'm always a fan of kind of having faith in your kids to be able to handle stuff. Like this is totally a reasonable movie to show your kids. Like it's almost perfect for it. Like it's super gory in a cartoonish way, but they never swear, kind of thing.
Right.
You know, it's cosmic factions kind of clashing and stuff like that with like rubbery costumes. If I had seen this movie at my son's age, it would have been the best thing ever. Absolutely.
Yeah.
If my dad was cool enough to show it to me, I would have been like, oh, hell yeah. You know, I was super lucky enough when I was 12 to take an animation class.
Mm.
And in that animation class, the teacher was fearless enough to show all of us kids Akira.
Wow.
And I'm just like, man, like I find myself now as a dad remembering that courage of that teacher and being like that was like powerful and meaningful, and I want to be the kind of adult that has that courage on behalf of kids.
Yeah, Akira is way darker than this.
Incredibly dark. Yeah, incredibly. I mean, you know, and it has themes of, you know, a certain amount of sexual assault. It has, you know, quite a bit of gore, and more than that, it's got kind of like geopolitics and apocalypticism, and is incredibly deep and dark. And obviously, as a 12-year-old, like I just had these totally awesome motorcycle fights and cool screaming telekinetic teenagers and stuff, and yet like just years of juicy like, wait, what the hell was that movie really about? Like just living in my brain and you know, giving me all sorts of insight for a very long term afterwards.
Yeah, I don't think there's very much that I'd say was actually upsetting in Psycho Goreman. It's not really mean. There's nothing mean-spirited. There's no one gets like harmed in a way that's, well, people get harmed in super exaggerated pyrotechnic ways, but they don't get harmed in a way that's like feels real. Like it doesn't ever trigger your empathy reflex.
The big problem that I think adults would have showing kids this movie is that moral ambivalence, is that complete disregard for authority, like the value of authority.
No.
There's a new
some parents just flip the hell out at even a hint of that. And
yeah, I wouldn't show this to Christian kids.
Oh yeah. Anyone remotely concerned about satanic panic is just not gonna vibe with this movie. You know,
I love that they set it up that like she's praying for guidance from the Christian God.
Yeah.
Nope.
That is an amazing scene. Like how to describe that scene? Like when exactly does it happen? It happens
like right before the final big battle, right?
Trying to decide whether or not she should give Psycho Goreman the gem.
That's it. Thank you. Yeah.
But she prays for guidance on which sunglasses she should wear. She goes, "Well, I'm kidding. Obviously, the zebra glasses."
I'm
this
sure
little girl is fucking rad. God damn it.
Oh.
Well, so in conclusion.
Yeah, I have some final thoughts, but
you
could. I don't know. You know, I want to give you guys space to share any last kind of thinking.
Random aside, I read an interview with the actress that played Mimi. They tried to play Crazy Ball. The crew and actors tried to play Crazy Ball when they were done shooting the movie, and they realized that none of them understood it. Despite all the scenes, despite going through the instructions multiple times, no idea how to actually play it.
No, yeah, it's 43-man Squamish. It's they're just there to get in the way of the fun.
Yeah, the point of the game is it's a non-understandable game. It is delightful. All right, well, yeah, here are my final thoughts. You know, we were, I think, struggling a little bit trying to decide between the three of us what movie to watch. I felt like I was being a little bit picky, and I was being picky because I've never been a huge enjoyer of horror. And it's always felt like actually a little bit of a character flaw. I'm just like, I seem like, why don't I like this when it's very clear lots of really cool people do like it? It's like I feel like I understand it analytically and the nature of catharsis and how valuable it is for horror to be a place in society where we can release our fears and tensions and even mock them a bit or viscerally like explore them.
This episode would have had a much different tone if I'd managed to talk you, or not so much talk, but trick you guys into watching The Coffee Table.
Yeah.
I want to watch that. I saw
oh boy
the other day,
and I probably never will. And I think what it comes down to is that I struggle with horror simply because like I don't think I want to watch people be stressed out for like an hour and a half. Like it just doesn't seem like
Coffee
fun.
Table would kill you.
Yeah,
it would flat out end you.
And when I landed on that, as my reason for kind of not liking horror in general, I was like, well, I love action movies, and action movies are just people being stressed out for an hour and a half, even like maybe even more so. But then I was like, well, action movies are kind of like people competently handling being stressed out for an hour and a half instead of being super badass about overcoming their stress. And maybe maybe that's why like I find that much more enjoyable.
Horror movies tend to not be cool about the stress that is.
No, not at all. You're watching people failing at dealing with their stress more often than not. And my impression is that people that enjoy horror, like they're able to kind of give themselves to the horror a little bit. They understand it's going to be a ride. They understand it's going to be a little bit of a roller coaster. And so they're just like, you know what? I'm going to get on this roller coaster. It's going to be thrilling. I'm going to like embrace it. I'm going to turn off the lights and make it dark and like really kind of sink my teeth into it. And I think that my psychological makeup is just a little kind of tightly wound. It just kind of refuses to be willing to do that. And so when I watch horror, I feel like I watch it with just a bit too much meta commentary like in my head, and I struggle to like embrace it and appreciate it. And so this goes back to kind of like my point here was that this was a movie that challenges you kind of in the same way to kind of embrace it. But it's not challenging you to embrace horror, it's challenging you to embrace a kind of silliness and absurdity. Which isn't always doable. Like it wasn't doable for my wife. But if you're willing to embrace it, it really pays off, in my opinion. And that was like a really insightful to me, where I was just like, I think I'm learning that I'm a little tightly wound around horror, and I think like this movie is kind of teaching me a little bit to just like shake it off and like let yourself be challenged by a movie and try to roll with it. I don't know. Like this sounds like a huge like insight or necessarily like a marker of growth, but it was a thing that happened to me watching this dumb Power Ranger style movie.
This movie is a lot different than the good horror movies, the well-reviewed horror movies, the arty horror movies that are kind of a big thing right now. Things like Hereditary and Midsommar. Those movies aren't about fun or childlike wonder. They're about trauma. I mean, if you boil all of them down, they're about different forms of trauma. And the thing with those movies is if you're going to sit through them and engage with them, you're going to experience a little trauma with the movie. You're not going to be totally removed from it. It's going to reach in and tug on your trauma just a little bit. And some people just don't enjoy that, which is fair.
Yeah, I find like my experience with horror movies is I kind of walk around thinking I'm not one of those horror guys. I'm not, frankly, a lot of them look pretty bad. The stuff that comes out to the multiplexes tend to not be reviewed very well. And
the new Blumhouse movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Blumhouse. Jesus Christ. Just
they've had like 2 good movies.
So that's what I tend to think of. But I saw or I've heard something, maybe we even discussed it on the show, but Nicolas Cage talking about why he likes doing horror movies so much, because he says it's like the last kind of vestige of like surrealism in films, and it gives him a chance to be surrealistic in, you know, in his approach as an actor that he can't be in like a comedy or a straight ahead drama, which is the kind of thing, you know, it's that surrealistic approach is what interests him as an actor. And I have to admit, the stuff I tend to vibe with for horror tends to be the same kind of thing, this, you know, surrealism, and sometimes it is a disturbing level of surreality, like in Color Out of Space or The Void. And sometimes, I mean, this movie's just as surreal as those. It's just in a bonkers, joyful way, you know? And yeah, I have an appreciation for that, I didn't realize I had in me until I started noticing these things. Again, thank you, Nicolas Cage, my Lord and Master and Savior.
Yes.
Speaking of Cage, have you all seen Mandy?
I have not seen Mandy yet.
Oh
no.
Oh,
Karen,
man.
I think you'd actually enjoy Mandy. It is a beautiful movie.
All right,
gorgeous.
I take your recommendations pretty seriously. I did love him in Color Out of Space.
Oh yeah. Mandy is pure, unfiltered Cage, and just beautiful cinematography. The score, just the guy who directed it and created it, Panos Cosmatos. Oh, that. Did you watch the Guillermo del Toro Cabinet of Curiosities series?
I did not. Is it worth watching?
It is worth watching. It's different directors to every episode. So some of them are better than others, and a couple of them are terrible. But the one by Panos Cosmatos is amazing. Has a great cast. The Lovecraftian one, where the millionaire or billionaire had found the artifact, and he invites a panel of people to come look at it.
Yeah,
that's Panos.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and he did his first movie is called Beyond the Black Rainbow, I think.
Yeah.
That movie's great too. It recaptures like the weird 70s kind of art sci-fi horror vibe. It's really unique looking, has a really cool score, just a lot of really crazy, weird, cool images. You might enjoy that as well.
I'll check it out. Yeah. There are times when the mood strikes me to explore a touch of drama. I do like it when it helps a lot when it's artistic, and it helps a lot when there's a sense of joy to it.
Sure.
And Guillermo does a great job of balancing that, very serious examinations of trauma with just a touch of
Guillermo does
joy and magic and playfulness.
Like even Kronos or Devil's Backbone didn't really bum me out.
Yeah.
I guess Pan's Labyrinth could bum you out pretty hard if
that's
how you approached it.
That's a rough one.
It's a totally traumatizing movie that's just incredibly powerful and beautiful. Yeah, I really enjoyed Pan's Labyrinth, and yet I've never found the courage to watch it again.
No, me neither.
Knowing how it ends is a lot of that's a big ticket price going in emotionally.
Yep. Well, I hope you guys have an awesome Halloween.
Thank you.
And
you too.
Yeah, this was a real delight and was a perfect movie for Halloween. It's goofy costumes. It's a moral release, the way that the holiday is, like, just like, let's not be uptight. Let's go out and have fun and pretend to be scary and have lots of fake gore and so on. And so if we do manage to publish this kind of before the holiday, I hope people that have listened have gotten the right sense of maybe what to expect, while still maybe some hooks to enjoy it.
Sure. Although we did spoil the heck out of it.
Yeah, it happens. There's a podcast about a movie.
I don't think this is a movie that gets ruined by that can be ruined by spoilers. I think this is
twist. They ruined the twist.
It was very enjoyable for me to go in completely blind.
Well, sure.
Although I will say that very rapidly, I was like, I think I figured out what this movie's about.
It's the vibe of the film pretty
yeah.
quick. It's
Yeah.
not going to veer into becoming I don't know Mandy. It's a good example. It's not going to become Mandy a third of the way through. It's the movie. It starts out as it stays as for 90 minutes. Also, perfect runtime for this kind of movie.
Yeah.
90 minutes.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely. Like the pacing,
In and
rock
out.
solid. The shot choices, very good. So yeah,
Older I
not a
get, the more I
movie
appreciate
ruined by
it.
spoilers. If you've
Nah.
listened to us ramble about it for an hour and still want to watch it, you're probably still gonna enjoy it.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, sounds good.
Indeed. Well, Sean, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, our first guest.
Hopefully we'll have you on for other shows as well. Maybe not ones based around horror. I mean, we didn't really watch a horror movie, it feels like, this time around. So hopefully we'll bring you back to watch an actual real horror movie and talk about it.
Table episode where we all just sort of sit and stare into the middle distance.
Yeah, or you guys tell me about it and I just like kind of like, okay. Oh, yes. God bless you both. Thank you everyone for listening. And hopefully we will see you, if not next week, in 2 weeks. Have a great Halloween. Maybe we'll do a Thanksgiving episode.
Yes.
All right.
Perhaps.
Peace out, my friends.